Welcome to the Friday Casebook. I want to know from Roger Casale, the founder of Neo Europeans, what sparked your interest this week?
3 weeks ago, Lena, we looked at the legacy of Napoleon, the 200th anniversary of his death. And one of the things many people perhaps have forgotten about Napoleon was he was very interested in bees, very interested in bees. In fact, he chose a bee as the symbol of his symbol as Emperor of France. And Napoleon would have been one of the first to notice that bees are disappearing. Grain crops, and this is the time where we see the grain growing in the fields, they're primarily pollinated by the wind, as I think most people will be aware, but the majority of fruits, nuts and vegetables are pollinated by bees. And according to Greenpeace, 70 out of the top 100 human food crops are pollinated by bees. So we should be concerned about a report last week from northern Italy by Greenpeace about a dramatic loss of bees in Mantua and Brescia. And we'll put this story in the comments. Bees have disappeared from 600 hives in that area over the last few months, a serious alarm for biodiversity in the area, says Greenpeace. And this is a massive problem worldwide, wherever farming has been industrialized. And of course, you know, there's a biodiversity crisis before COVID. So going back to normal, if we're ever going to go back to normal after COVID, is not actually going back to normal at all. It's going back to some of the crises we had before COVID, including this one, crisis of biodiversity. And if there is a serious disappearance of bees worldwide, it will have very dramatic impact on food production and on the health of the world economy, actually. And although we may have a plan for economic recovery, evolution doesn't have a plan. Once you lose species, you can't sort of plan to get them back. You can't have a sort of EU directive that's going to reinvent species that have disappeared. So I just flag up this issue of the disappearing bees. It was there before COVID, it will be there afterwards. And of course, it's part of a much bigger problem, the loss of species, the loss of biodiversity. But bees busy bees, actually, we depend on them. Let's remember, we depend on them for most of our food production in the world. So if we lose the bees, we're not in a very good place at all.
What else caught your eye this week?
Well, 5 years have passed since Giulio Regeni, who was a young Italian, Cambridge-educated researcher, doing research into counterterrorism, I think, in Egypt. And he was abducted in Cairo in 2016, and he was tortured and he was murdered. And his body was so badly disfigured that his mother could only identify him from the tip of his nose. And every year on the 25th of January, which was the day of his abduction, campaigners take to the streets. And Amnesty International have been doing a fantastic job with this campaign to demand justice for Giulio Regeni. And this year we joined in the campaign alongside our good friends, Eric Joseph, who's a journalist with Libération and runs the Appoint organization Europa Now. And last week, we got the good news that a judge in Rome has finally said that there is enough evidence for 4 Egyptian security officials to stand trial. And let's read out their names, because often you don't do that enough. There's General Tariq Sabir, Colonel Usham Helmi, Colonel Athar Kamal Mohammed Ibrahim, and Major Magdi Ibrahim Abdeli Sharif. And it's a very, very important moment in the campaign. And the family's lawyer, Alessandra Ballerini, said in a statement, all Giulio Regeni's rights have been violated. But today we have the well-founded hope that at least the right to the truth will not be denied. And I think in Europe, we want to think of Europe and European institutions and governments in Europe as defending our rights, including the right to truth. So I think this is an important moment, not just for Giulio Regeni's family and supporters, but of the campaign for justice for Giulio Regeni, like Europa Now and New Europeans and Amnesty International, but also for us as European citizens.
Who's on the naughty step?
We're spoiled for choice this week with what's been happening in Belarus, but I'm going to avoid the temptation of doing the obvious and putting Lukashenko on there. We need to have him on there every week. I've picked Adina Valian, the EU Transport Commissioner, because when the Ryanair flight eventually took off again from Minsk, she put out a tweet saying, "Great news, everyone. Everyone's on board. Everybody's on their way to Vilnius." But of course, everybody wasn't on board. So then she put out another tweet saying, as you can see, the Ryanair flight took off just now from Minsk, bound for Vilnius. Great news for everyone, especially the families and friends of people on board. But of course, it wasn't great news for Roman Pratasevic and Sofia Zabrega, who are stuck in a prison still in Minsk. And our good friend Gianpaolo Arcado from Vox Europe was very quick to react, asking the commissioner what exactly is the great news that she is talking about. And of course, this is an extraordinary event, but I mean, even in very dark times, it's important to have a sense of humor. And I don't know whether you've seen the meme that's making the rounds with the new Ryanair seating plan. You can always book priority booking. Let's have a look at that. You could pay 17 euros to go in the priority zone and 78 euros to go in the no kidnap zone. But this is really a moment when, as we've been calling it New Europeans, as you know, with our Quo Vadis series for many months, for the European to step up to the plate and really start to flex muscles a little bit, and let's see what happens next. We'll revisit this on the next Friday Casebook.
Who's our star of the week, Roger?
Well, today is the 40th anniversary of Greece joining the European Union, and one of the heroes of Greek democracy and one of the great Greek Europeans of the modern era is an actress who passed away in 1994 called Melina Mercouri. And last year was the 100th anniversary of her birth. And Greece declared a year of Melina Mercouri. Say she was an actress, but she was also an anti-fascist. And when the Greek government democracy was taken over by the generals between 1967 and 1974. She was a very strong opponent, and in fact the generals took away her Greek citizenship, and that will resonate with all of those who lost their EU citizenship as a result of Brexit. Losing your citizenship is not a nice thing to happen. And she wrote a book at the time saying, "I was born Greek and I will die Greek." And I think if she was still alive today, she would be saying how strong she was a European. In fact, she became the Minister of Culture in Greece when democracy was restored to Greece, and she became a very important voice in the European Union. In fact, she was the inspiration and the creator of the European Capitals of Culture scheme, which still exists today. So we salute Melina Mercouri, a great European woman, a great Greek democrat and fighter for freedom. We remember her, Melina Mercouri, on this day, the 40th anniversary of Greece's accession to the European Union. Congratulations to Greece, and every success for the next 40 years of your membership of the European Union.
Wonderful. Now I'm curious. Let's take a look at her. There's one question left. What's coming up?
So we have a wonderful talk in June by Roxana Barbulescu, who is a professor of migration studies at Leeds University, on what does our European citizenship mean post-Brexit. So that's a nice link with Melina Mercouri having her citizenship taken away. And we'll put the details in the comment box below the video.
Thank you very much, Roger. And dear all, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and join our movement, join New Europeans. Take care and see you next week.
See you next week.